everyone. I'm Lindsay Lewis, editor of Building Enclosure. Thanks for listening along with us today. On September 24th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, we have a live webinar airing, Understanding and Designing for Moisture Movement. Our presenters, Matt Copeland, founder of Copeland Building Envelope Consulting, and Jennifer Keegan, Senior Director of Building and Roofing Science for GAF, are here today to discuss the webinar. Jennifer and Matt, thanks for sitting with me.
Thanks.
So let's kick off. How does the permeability of materials affect the overall performance of an enclosure system?
Maybe I'll take this one. I think this is something that we could have a whole webinar just about this, right? And I think there's a lot of misunderstandings about permeability and how it impacts things. So I think it's one thing we'll spend a little bit of time on that specifically to try to clear some of that up. And I think one of the main things is that it has a lot to do with durability and resiliency, ability for a system overall to dry out if it happens to get wet, and its susceptibility to wetting in situations that you might not otherwise expect it. So understanding what it means and how to apply that to certain systems is definitely very critical.
So with that being said, what are some of the most common challenges designers face when addressing moisture movement in buildings?
So really all comes down to the details, and the transitions tend to be the most challenging details because we need to think in 3 dimensions and also think about not just where the water is going to go, which is usually the path of least resistance, but where the air is going to go, because the air is going to carry water with it. And the risk of condensation and moisture accumulation is actually much greater when we don't have that continuity, the air control layer. So we're going to dig into that with some specific examples during the webinar.
Yeah, well, speaking of examples, are you going to be sharing some examples of maybe some projects where detailing decisions influence moisture performance?
Yeah, we certainly will. We have a few examples from kind of sad stories that we've encountered in our work, and hopefully we can learn from them. Plenty of gory photos and maybe a little bit of a shock to people that don't typically run into these things, but we do have some fun examples to go through for sure.
Now, how are the new whole building airtightness testing requirements changing the way designers approach building envelope design?
So whole building air testing as a requirement has designers thinking holistically, which is, in my opinion, the whole point. It requires that all the enclosure contractors are working together for success. So the details are more detailed, if that makes sense. And there's really a greater focus on control layers. Which materials play the leading role for each layer? And do we have continuity? You're also going to see that mock-up testing and first install testing take a more prominent role to make sure that design and installation is going to be successful.
I want to pivot and chat about codes for a second. How do current IBC and IECC provisions define a designer's code-mandated responsibilities for air barrier and vapor controlling detailing?
Okay, I'll grab this one. So there's really a lot more accountability with the code requirements for air barriers, more so than vapor control. But this is really an area where many designers fall short because they don't fully understand these requirements. We kind of get that deer in the headlight look when we bring up some of these requirements. So tune in, and Matt and I are going to share with you almost like a checklist to help hold your teams accountable and reduce your risk as it relates to air barriers and moisture movement.
Now, we chatted a little bit about seeing what can go wrong, but what are the most common detailing errors you've observed that undermine moisture performance, and how can those errors be prevented through QA, QC processes?
At a high level, I think one of the main things that I see is a misunderstanding, or at least not conveying an understanding of the conceptual approach to these assemblies, right? So in the detailing, somebody may show this material or that material, but the concept behind it, the intent behind it, is not clear to the reader of the drawings, the contractor, whoever's using them. So we'll go through some examples of that and what that means and how to more clearly convey not just the specific material itself, but why it needs to be there and why it's important that somebody knows why it needs to be there.
Now, lastly, I do want to ask you guys, what else will attendees learn during the webinar?
I'm going to say that this session is going to be loaded with actionable takeaways to really help You mitigate the risk in your designs and in your projects. And Matt even has this really cool algorithm for success that he's going to share with you. So you guys should all stay tuned and join us.
Can't wait to hear that. Well, thank you both again for your time today.
Happy to. Looking forward to it.
Thanks, Lindsay.
To register for this free webinar, head to continueducation.bmpmedia.com. Until next time, visit us on buildingclosureonline.com for your technical and educational resources.